welcome to another episode of Harrison Hobbies. Today we are going to be looking at the Goal Zero Torch 500. This is actually the second generation of the Goal Zero torch here. The first one was 250 lumen. It had a hand crank, it had solar, it had USB in. This one has done away with the hand crank. We have a larger solar panel on here, and it's gone from the regular USB-A dongle plug that it came with to a USB-C in. So quick game plan for the video. We will unbox this, we'll check out some of the features, the specifications, and then after we're done with that, we'll go outside and we'll check out some beam shots. So let's get into it. So here we have our Goal Zero unboxed. Quick walk around is we have a solar panel right here. It's pretty big, right? It's maybe 10 inches. We also have these green rubber bumpers on the sides, and the entire thing is constructed out of aluminum. So this is an aluminum extrusion here. This isn't cheap plastic that's maybe electroplated to look like aluminum. This is legit. If you drop it, is it going to dent and ding? Yeah, you know, it is thin aluminum, but you're still going to get quite a bit more protection that way. We have our flood beam here. So this is a TIR, total internal reflection optic. So it's basically just a giant chunk of plastic that's going to touch that emitter. And then at the very front there, you can see kind of a blotched area here. So that's going to be a diffuser. So what that's going to end up doing is giving you a really nice broad beam. And I can say, you know, after having used this now for a couple of weeks, that the beam really is pretty pleasing. If we look at the front here, we end up with, again, a plastic diffuser here. It's kind of like UHMW or something like that, plastic. And it's got a bunch of emitters in here. This is going to be your floodlight. And if we look at the back end here, let's put it in the correct orientation. So this right here is going to be your spot button. So you press it once, it's going to be in high mode. You press it again, it's going to be in medium. You press it again, and it's going to be in low. Low is really kind of candlelight. Same thing on the other side. And one of the features also here is if you let it go for 3 or 4 seconds and you press it again, it turns off. So if you go high and then we give it a couple of seconds here, we press it again, it goes directly to off. So you don't have to worry about cycling through every time, which is kind of handy. Same thing for the flood. And then the secret sauce here is if we remove this, this is going to be a thick chunk of super ductile plastic here, kind of silicon resin or something. Anyway, if we look into there, we're going to see a USB-A port and a USB-C. So this also has a rib around the edge here. So hopefully that comes through on the camera. But that rib on the edge is going to give you quite a bit of gasket sealing there. Again, the entire thing is IP rated. It's probably not going to do super well, but it should at least give itself a little bit of protection. And then as the other one had, it has these little metal hooks. So they start out here, and then you fold that over. You got one on each side. The first one here is going to be good for hanging. And then if you want total encapsulation here, you can pull out the other one on each side. And now you can actually basically create a full hook loop. And on this here, it does come with a 5200 milliamp hour battery at 3.6 volt. So that's going to be about the size of most cell phones. So it probably will give you one, maybe a little bit more than one full charge, plus a tiny bit of runtime here. And speaking of runtime, it's got 3 modes for spot, 3 modes for flood, and then a combination. So the high is going to be 300 lumens. So that's going to be 3. You can tell that it's, you know, it's got a little bit of a hot spot right here, and then it's got quite a bit of spill. And so once you move it a little bit away from the surface, since we're very close, you can see that that spot, the hot spot, almost completely disappears, and you end up with a nice broad beam. The color temperature, I will say, is a little bit yellowish for my taste. They say, I think, that this is 3600 Kelvin, and my studio lights that I shoot with right now are in 3600 mode, and it's looking quite a bit more yellow. I mean, it's pleasing enough, right? It's not a crappy blue LED, so that's nice. And again, for $50, I think this costs. It's giving you a lot of features, so I'm not going to ding them if they're maybe using a little bit, call it unstandardized bin of LED here, because again, I think, you know, the color temperature on here is good enough. And then if you compare that to the flood, The Flood has a very, very similar color temperature, so obviously they're at least trying to get emitters from the same batch. So, granted, these are going to be probably a different kind of emitter than the front here. I think this is going to be like a Cree XML maybe on the front here. Not sure on that for sure, but we'll turn these off. On your spot, you're going to be at 300 lumens on high. You're going to be at 150 on low. The first one is going to give you 3.5 hours. This will give you 7.5. And then the low, which I suspect is probably, it's Firefly, so it's maybe, 5 or 10 lumens here. And so this, they say, is going to be 50. They don't 50 hours. They don't give you a lumen rating for that one. And then Flood is same thing. All right, so we'll turn that off. We'll go to high here of 300 for 3 hours. Medium is going to be, waited too long. Medium is 150 lumens. That'll give you 7 hours. And then your low, which again is probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5-ish lumens. You can barely see that the LEDs are on. In a completely black room, it gives you enough light that you can kind of see what you're doing. If you're reading something, you're not going to be lighting up an area. And they say that, again, that's 50 hours. And whenever you put them both on at the same time, at high, they take a little bit of a step down. So you're going to end up not at 600 lumens, which would be 300 and 300, but instead 500, so you're probably running 250 on each. That might be for heat dissipation, or potentially that they went with a little bit lower grade of battery, and they ended up having to drop it down because it may have been pulling a little bit too much, so it's to protect the cells. Not sure why. And then whenever you go to your medium setting on these, again, instead of it being 300, it's down to 250 lumens. So, and that's going to give you around 6 hours, and they don't even talk about the low Firefly mode. My assumption is that, whenever you have both your torch and your spot on, or your Flood on here, that you're still probably going to be pretty close to 50 hours. And just some more specs here on the input and outputs. In the USB back here, it'll take you about 4 hours to charge here at 1 amp. 1 amp charger, so if you're using a solar panel exterior, not the included one here, you're probably going to be also around 4 hours. If you're using the integrated solar panel here, then you're talking 23 to 46 hours. So basically, if you're in the Northwest, it's probably going to take you 2 full days to get power. And if you're going to be, somewhere Arizona, somewhere hotter, or I guess with more clear sun, then you're going to be able to get this in a full day. And doing some, napkin math here, if you have an extended power outage, you're probably using this for maybe 5 or 10 hours per day. Even if you wanted a night light, you put it into the super low lumen 50-hour runtime mode, and you're going to be using up a fifth of it per day. And so the whole taking 2 days to charge here really isn't an issue as long as you're not using it as a power bank. If you're only using this for a flashlight on its lowest setting to keep a little bit of light in a room, then theoretically this solar panel will keep up with what you're doing. If you're actually out in the woods trying to find stuff and charging it up during the day, you're probably going to be disappointed. So keep your expectations realistic there. The other couple of features that it's got here we can talk about is the grip here is relatively ergonomic. If you have small hands, you may not like that, but the angles here make it nice to hold. And then the last feature here is going to be its kind of kickstand mode, so you can be, tracing the sun, or, trailing after the sun. For solar charging, it goes either direction. So that's the advantage of having these lobes on either side here, is they're able to keep it directed upward. And then aesthetically here, again, you've got these rubber bumpers here. They definitely went in and value engineered, right? Instead of doing like an inlay 2-part injection mold on this stuff here, if we pull that back a little bit, we can just see that that's actually just kind of a green sticker. But overall, it's, I don't know, it's a good flashlight. I think it's, any flashlight in any kind of emergency or outdoor situation is going to be handy to have. This one here is certainly no different. And to continue on with the testing here, we have the RAVPower power bank. This is kind of like the de facto here. And right now we're pulling 2.26 amps on, this is a Nokia 9, so it's one of the, I guess, most power hungry phones I have here in terms of charging. The Unihertz, out of all of the chargers, and I've got a lot of them, they're only like 2 wall warts and a power brick that actually put this thing into rapid charge mode. Even the charger it comes with doesn't, so it's not a good test subject whenever you're trying to figure out wattages here. So this one here is going to be right now charging. It's hit, I guess it's 8 volt, so of power or quick charge, I guess power delivery on this one. So we're running 7.51 at 2.24 watts. And so let's plug it into the Goal Zero light here and see how it does. So we'll start out with USB-A, and we've got some power here. It's hitting 4 volt. And so again, it won't in theory get, because it doesn't have power delivery or quick charge on this, I think it's just standard. We're going to be stuck at the 5 volt, right? It won't be able to ratchet up. And so right now we're pulling 1.4 amps. So they claim that it can put out 2.1 amp. So right now it's stuck in, it says charging. Whenever it was on this here, it said charging rapidly. So again, this phone, I guess, may not have the circuitry to fully utilize that. I don't know. So, and now let's try USB-C. I haven't actually tried the USB-C out here. I don't know if it does have it or not. So right now it looks like no. So it is only going to be our USB-A that gives us an output. Would this thing hit 2.1 amp? Honestly, I have no reason to think it wouldn't. And so again, Goal Zero I think is going to be pretty upfront with their output, so we can assume that this will safely hit. But again, I mean, it was able to give a decent amount here. So we'll start out with the light in our flood modes. So we can see here, again, we don't really have a defined hotspot. We've got plenty of fill over on the shop over here, as well as on the house. And then if we move on to the medium setting, it's usable. And again, this is roughly what I see here. So, you can see it light up the fence, light up my makeshift greenhouse there, and a little bit of spill onto both the shop and the house. And if we go to the lowest setting here, we'll point the camera right at the ground, and you can see a little bit there. Again, I can't actually see it up against the wall, up against the edge of the shop. Maybe a little bit. In a perfectly dark room, I'm sure this would be great. But now let's look at the flood here. So again, flood, full brightness here. You can see vaguely the fence out there. Again, the fence is probably 50-ish, 50 or 60 feet away. But then, quite a bit of spill up front. And then if we take it down a notch, you can see a little bit on the grass here. Shop or house a little bit, and then if we go to its lowest setting, you can see it there. But if we point it down, maybe you can see the tripod leg. Certainly in dark rooms it's going to be good, but in bright scenarios it's going to be less good if you're trying to get some detail light. But this was a quick summary of the Goal Zero Torch 500 Lite. From the review here, it's got a lot of cool features for 50 bucks, right? It's got solar, it's got USB in, which is really, really important to me as I've tried to transition everything over to USB-C. The fact that they've moved away from having a USB-A dongle, some of their old power banks had USB-A, their lantern stuff, it was silly. So the fact that they're embracing USB-C, I'm very happy with. I feel like with this product here for 50 bucks, you're getting what you pay for. Solar, it's got high quality LEDs, even if they're not, their color temperature isn't necessarily to my particular liking. I like something closer to 5,000 Kelvin. It's got a good build quality. Again, discovering that your toy is broken here in the middle of a review isn't super fun. And again, I will put money on that this was a manufacturing defect, not a SAM defect. It would definitely be worth buying if you are in the market for a flashlight that you're, for the price, going to sacrifice some lumens on, but give you the ability to charge and the ability to be a power bank. So, thanks for watching, and check back soon for more videos.